All in Sports Network. We love sports.
Coming to you from the land of brisket and barbecue, Lone Stars and Longhorns, this is All In Colts presented by the Unstable Blues.
Welcome back in. During the Colts offseason, this is our chance to talk about any other Indiana sports teams we want. This week, we will go through the major happenings and upcoming schedules from some of those teams we told you last week are better than the Colts. So, let's go. All In Colts. Kinda.
That's correct. I'm Kevin. This is my son Liam. We're the Unstable Blues. Happy to present All In Colts as part of the Rogue Media Sports Network.
Yes, first up, Notre Dame women's basketball took over number one in the country with South Carolina's loss to UConn.
Yep.
They still only have 2 losses on the season, one to Utah and one to currently 10th ranked TCU. We know Mark Campbell from our days in Oregon, and he is a tremendous coach. It doesn't hurt to have Haley Van Lith.
Yep.
Notre Dame continued their winning ways against Pitt and a 15-point win over number 11 Duke this week. They beat Miami last night and visit number 13 NC State on Sunday before closing out their season at home against Florida State and Louisville. Yes, it's Louisville, not Louisville.
That's true. Very important.
Yes. So big happenings for Notre Dame women's basketball. They're pretty much, I'd say, locked in for the March Madness.
But it's I think they're probably a lock for the number one seed.
Mm-hmm.
Which in women's basketball means you get to host, I believe.
Yes, I think there is a chance that they drop out of that if they lose both their next 2 games, but I doubt they're gonna lose both of them. So I like with the track that they are on, very, very, very good basketball. They are looking like a championship team right now.
I mean, they're looking real good. Shout out to Mark Campbell and what he's building in TCU. Has been since last year. So he's got some good stuff going on. We know him and his family really well. And now we're in the same state again. Purdue men's basketball has dropped their last 3 in a row and now sit behind the Big Ten standings to those 3 teams in Michigan, Michigan State, and Wisconsin. They have to go to Assembly Hall to play a Hoosier team that almost beat them in Mackey and host UCLA this week before ending their regular season hosting Rutgers and going to Illinois.
Yeah, not necessarily last year, but the year before that, it was Purdue and Indiana at the top of the Big Ten, and here we are now. It's back to Michigan State, which seems pretty normal.
Yep.
Wisconsin always up there, but Michigan, that seems different.
Yeah. I got to shout out coaching, of course. Michigan basketball coach came from the Final Four team FAU 2 years ago, Dusty May.
Florida Atlantic.
Yep. And so we're getting all kinds of connections here because you used to play soccer at FAU campus with your team, your soccer team growing up. But Dusty May played at IU under Bobby Knight and now has gone on to make himself a good name. And at least on his FAU coaching staff, I'm not sure about Michigan. There was a alumnus from my high school back in Indianapolis. So lots of connections that we have here today to some of these people.
Yeah,
we joke that we could GM and coach, but we have quite a few connections.
We do. IU men's basketball, on the other hand, had a hangover after beating Michigan State, who we just talked about.
Yep.
With a loss to UCLA. They have those Boilermakers coming to town and a Penn State team before a West Coast trip to play Washington and Oregon, who for some reason is in the Big Ten, then hosting Ohio State to close out the season.
Yeah. You bring up a valid point. It is weird. It's very strange that Washington and Oregon and UCLA now are in the Big Ten.
Mhm.
I know I have my feelings, your feelings.
I love that the Big Ten is expanding, but it's expanding in the wrong areas on the map. It just makes everything so much harder. That's not correct grammar. So much tougher for they're college students, and layovers are a thing. They have classes still, so it's hard for them to deal with all of this. But it's weird. Glad the Big Ten is growing, but it's weird that they're all the way in the West Coast compared to the Midwest. So
yeah, I grew up on a Big Ten that didn't even include Maryland, Rutgers, or even Penn State.
yeah,
or Nebraska.
The actual Big Ten.
Only the Midwest. 2 teams in Michigan, 2 teams in Indiana, and it didn't go very far. It expanded barely to 2 time zones, and even that was kind of debatable. So it's just very weird. It goes not just to the Big Ten, but to the Big 12, because the other night, Oregon had a 9:00 Baylor had a 9:00, same colors, had a 9:00 local tip-off time, 9 p.m. local tip-off time, because they were playing Arizona in their same conference. It just doesn't sit well. I don't mean to be an old cranky man, but I just don't like it. I think it should not be that way.
Yeah.
Moving on, the Fever continue to build their veteran. It's the only team we're talking about not in season. Their veteran roster around their young core of Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell, and Lexi Hull. We discussed DeWanna Bonner, Sophie Cunningham, and Natasha Howard last week. This week, they added 2-time All-WNBA defensive team Notre Dame alumni, the rim protector, Brianna Turner.
2 Turners for Indiana basketball now, both on the defensive end more than anything else as well.
Yep.
That's always cool to see how things like that work out.
Yep. She had averaged 2 blocks per game in her best season, and totaled over 300 blocks, I believe.
Wow.
Close to around 300 blocks in her whole collegiate career at Notre Dame.
Nice.
So.
Speaking of Indiana basketball and Turners, the Pacers remain 4th in the East, 1 game up on the Bucks. They won against the Grizzlies last night and continue with a 3-game homestand against the Clippers, Nuggets, and Raptors.
Yeah, it's a couple West Coast teams there coming to town. Good chance after the break to kind of climb the rankings even more. Get yourself some space before you got to play the Bucks again. I think a couple weeks ish. And
maybe gain something on the Knicks, something
right,
like that.
and some good teams, because the Nuggets are the Nuggets with everything that they have. And then this is the return of Paul George with the Clippers, right? He's with the Sixers now.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And then it's also, Pascal Siakam.
Yep.
To Toronto, Toronto's coming here, but still.
Yeah.
So lots of things there.
That's right. Just like in this episode,
Yep.
But that's all that we have for today. Take next week off, aside from maybe our thoughts on Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard meeting with the media during the NFL Combine. We will break that down the following week as it is back in Indy where it belongs from February 24th to March 2nd.
Yep. This is Liam.
And this is Kevin.
reminding you to stay all in Colts.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.